What if a serene morning drive suddenly turned into a nightmare? How does a beloved community member become the target of an unexpected act of violence? And what are the consequences when justice remains elusive for almost 50 years? Daniel Ashton Walker was a cherished member of his community, respected and adored for his warm nature and unwavering willingness to assist those around him. However, the serenity of his existence was abruptly shattered on the fateful morning of October 1st, 1974. Unbeknownst to him, a dark cloud was forming over the tranquility of his life. The day started like any other for Daniel, with no hint of the calamity that would befall him. As the sun began its ascent into the sky, painting the heavens in hues of orange and pink, Daniel carried on with his daily routine, unaware that his life was about to take a devastating turn. Daniel's Volkswagen van was parked alongside Interstate 40, around 60 miles to the west of Needles in San Bernardino County, California. Accompanied by a passenger, an 18-year-old hitchhiker, Ken Robinson, he picked up, they had decided to take a break from their journey and rest for a while. The day before, he packed his van and left family in Santa Ana on his way back home. The vast expanse of the California desert stretched out before them, offering a momentary respite from the humdrum of their daily lives. As the clock struck 6 a.m., Daniel and Ken settled in, preparing for a brief pause in their travels. The peaceful stillness of the early morning hours enveloped them as they reclined in the van, savoring the calm before the impending storm. The tranquility of their brief respite was shattered as Daniel was jolted awake by the sudden crackle of gunfire. An unknown assailant had emerged from the shadows, unleashing a barrage of bullets that tore through the peaceful morning air. Daniel, caught off guard and defenseless, was struck multiple times. As the chaos unfolded, Ken, gripped by terror and the instinct for survival, managed to evade the onslaught. Fleeing from the scene, they desperately sought help as the darkness of the early morning enshrouded them. Eventually, they succeeded in flagging down a passing motorist, who swiftly contacted the authorities. Emergency personnel arrived at the scene, wasting no time in transporting Daniel to a nearby hospital. The medical team worked tirelessly to stabilize him, but despite their best efforts, Daniel succumbed to his injuries, his life tragically cut short. Daniel Ashton Walker, a beloved young man on the cusp of his 22nd birthday, was gone. Law enforcement worked with unwavering determination, meticulously combing the scene for any evidence that could provide insight into the identity of the elusive assailant. As the investigation into Daniel's tragic demise unfolded, detectives initially suspected that robbery was the motive behind the shooting. However, perplexing details emerged that cast doubt on this theory. Bafflingly, the perpetrators had only taken $80 from Daniel, inexplicably leaving behind a substantial amount of $600 in traveler's checks. The circumstances became even more mysterious when it was discovered that the assailants had not taken Daniel's motorcycle, stereo system, or luggage stored in the back of his van. With a clear description of the suspect's vehicle in hand, law enforcement officials in California, Nevada, and Arizona were notified and stopped and searched each gold van matching the reported description. Investigators spoke to a delivery man who said earlier that morning the suspects waved him down after their gold van was stuck in the sand. One of the suspects told the delivery man they were heading to Indiana and that they carried a shotgun to shoot down posts and sagebrush to use for tire traction should they get stuck. The delivery man helped tow the van and refused payment for his services. The coordination between law enforcement agencies across state lines underscored the seriousness of the case. This served as a testament to their commitment to finding answers and ensuring that the individual or individuals behind this senseless act would be held accountable. While Ken's account provided some valuable information, the underlying motive behind the attack remained elusive. As the investigation progressed, detectives explored a range of potential theories in an effort to make sense of the seemingly random act of violence. They examined the possibility of a targeted attack with personal motives, as well as the likelihood that it was a random act of aggression. The remote location of the crime, occurring along a desolate stretch of highway, further complicated the case. It became difficult to discern whether the perpetrators had premeditated the assault or seized an opportunity that presented itself. Despite the thorough investigation of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, they were unable to bring it to a resolution. Over the course of 5 decades, the case was periodically revisited by the Sheriff's Department's cold case team, who tenaciously searched for new leads. However, the passage of time proved to be a formidable opponent, and the team was unable to develop any actionable information to finally solve the case of Daniel Ashton Walker. In a significant development on November 15, 2023, the cold case team resumed their investigation. Their renewed efforts led them to identify the infamous serial perpetrator, 73-year-old Thomas Eugene Creech, as the primary suspect in the case in January 2024. This breakthrough was based on crucial information, which included corroborated intimate details from Creech's own statements about the slaying case. To ensure the validity of their findings, the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office collaborated with the Ada County District Attorney's Office in Idaho. This cooperation further solidified the case against Creech, leading the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office to consult on the next steps in pursuing justice for Daniel Walker. Thomas Eugene Creech, a convicted perpetrator with a history of multiple confessions, found himself implicated in Daniel's case just after his clemency hearing. He is Idaho's longest-serving inmate that will be executed for several different slayings. He has a total of 5 convictions, but some believe that he could be responsible for more than 40 different slayings. They believe so due to his confession at a trial in 1975, where he admitted to slaying 42 people in more than a dozen states across America. Despite authorities verifying Creech's statements about Daniel's case, his public defender raised concerns about the timing of these revelations. They suggested that past efforts to link Creech to numerous slayings had been unsubstantiated. Ada County prosecutors described Creech as an unrepentant, manipulative sociopath, implying that his recent statements might be a calculated ploy to avoid execution. The gravity of the case and the complexity of Creech's character added further layers of intrigue to the pursuit of justice for Daniel. As Thomas Eugene Creech is identified as the primary suspect in Daniel Walker's case, the community of San Bernardino County nears closure. After nearly 50 years, justice may finally be served in this tragic case of senseless violence, bringing a measure of solace to Daniel's loved ones and the community at large. Daniel's brother, Doug Walker, self-published a book on Amazon titled Daniel, My Brother, Mystery in the Mojave. Doug said he devoted 2 chapters in the book to his brother's character. In their father's last letter to Daniel, he wrote, "Everyone speaks so highly of you, always and without exception. The San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office have not announced yet whether they plan to extradite and prosecute Creech." Spokeswoman Jacqueline Rodriguez said, "We are in receipt of the reports and are in continued contact with Ada County District Attorney's Office and our San Bernardino County investigative team regarding the pursuit of justice in this matter. For Doug Walker, justice does not necessarily include executing Creech. He said, "As long as they can prove whoever did it, that is fine with me. Whether they lose their life or not, that is not my decision. That is above my pay grade." Who was Scott Parrish, the respected businessman and community volunteer from Fort Wayne, Indiana? What secrets lay hidden behind his seemingly perfect life? For nearly 18 years, his tragic demise remained a mystery that shook the community to its core. Robert Scott Parrish, a 49-year-old businessman, was the respected owner of Parrish Wallpaper and Paint, Incorporated, located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Born and raised in Fort Wayne, Scott had deep roots in the community, where he was widely recognized not only for his entrepreneurial success, but also for his extensive volunteer work with numerous local organizations. Scott was a devoted family man, cherished by his parents Jim and Nancy Parrish, and his siblings Mike, Greg, Tom, and Danny. His dedication to both his business and community made him a well-loved figure in Fort Wayne. Scott's company was more than just a local business. It was a testament to his commitment to quality and service, earning the trust and loyalty of countless customers over the years. Little did anyone know that beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life lay the seeds of a tragedy that would soon unfold. On the evening of March 29, 2006, around 6:30 p.m., Danny, Scott's brother, and his wife Patty became alarmed when Scott failed to appear at work and did not answer his phone. Fearing something was wrong, they went to Scott's house in the 1000 block of Vermont Avenue to check on him. Inside, they made a horrifying discovery. Scott was in the bathroom, unresponsive and with a gunshot wound to the head. In a panic, they called the police immediately. When the police arrived, Danny and Patty explained how they found Scott sitting on the toilet, fully clothed with the lid down and suffering from a gunshot wound. The scene was gruesome, with blood splattered on the wall next to the toilet and dried blood on the cabinet in front of him. It was declared at the scene that Scott had lost his life. He had 2 contact gunshot wounds behind his left ear, one exiting through the top of his head and the other through his forehead. He also had a through-and-through gunshot wound on his upper arm. Crime scene investigators found a brass-colored .40 caliber Smith & Wesson shell casing on the bathroom floor near the bathtub. Another shell casing was located on the floor in front of the toilet, close to Scott's left hand. A third projectile was discovered on the bathroom sink. As investigators continued their search, they uncovered an unexpected find: a concealed marijuana grow operation hidden behind a false wall in the basement. Nearby, they found a Black & Decker cordless screwdriver, suggesting recent use. This discovery raised numerous questions. Was Scott involved in illicit activities, or was someone else using his property without his knowledge? Could this illegal operation be connected to his demise? Investigators were now faced with unraveling a complex case where the image of Scott as a respected businessman and community volunteer was suddenly shadowed by the dark secrets hidden in his home. The following day, the coroner officially classified the demise as a slaying case. His wallet was found in the Heartland Church parking lot over a mile away from his home. There was no money in the wallet, but it had his driver's license and library card. In January 2008, police interviewed a witness who had known Scott for 3 years. When questioned about the case, the witness identified a Hispanic man named Derek Rodney Johnson, known as Q, whom the police already suspected. The witness described Johnson, originally from Texas, as someone who often boasted about committing robberies and slayings. On January 22, 2008, another key witness came forward with important information. This witness recounted a conversation with Johnson that took place a few weeks after Scott's life was taken. The witness recalled talking with Johnson in his kitchen on South Lafayette Street, where he showed them 2 marijuana plants growing in a closet. He then claimed that he had taken the plants during a robbery. The witness reported that Johnson admitted to shooting Scott in the head during the robbery when he attempted to access a gun in a safe in his bathroom. Johnson mentioned that there were several marijuana plants in Scott's basement, but he only took 2 plants and a small bag of marijuana. Further details from the witness indicated that Johnson had possessed 2 .40 caliber guns at one point, but their current location was unknown. On July 31, 2014, detectives interviewed Johnson at the Westville Correctional Facility. He was already in state prison after pleading guilty to 2 counts of aggravated battery and 1 count of criminal recklessness for shooting Leonardo Puentes in Fort Wayne in 2006. He was sentenced to 34 years, and his earliest possible release date for that sentencing is 2029. After being informed of his rights and signing a waiver, he admitted to knowing Scott through a mutual acquaintance, Witness 1, with whom he worked on construction sites. He also revealed that he initially bought marijuana from Scott through Witness 1, and later directly from Scott. He then confessed to carrying 2 .40 caliber Smith & Wesson guns around the time of Scott's slaying, and being familiar with the layout of Scott's bathroom, having used it during an illegal substance purchase. On July 1, 2015, detectives received a letter from Johnson, who was then at the NCCF Annex in Newcastle. In the letter, he claimed that his gang, Northern Vatos Locos, had executed Scott for stealing marijuana and money. He stated that while he knew the identity of the perpetrator, he could not disclose it due to the gang's code of silence. Johnson explained that he had reported Scott to his superiors in the gang and had ordered the hit. He even mentioned receiving photos of Scott after the slaying from the shooter. Johnson clarified that there would be no signs of struggle, as the gang members, frustrated with Scott's deceit, had sat him down on the toilet and shot him. He admitted to participating in some robberies, but insisted he never wanted anyone to be harmed. Johnson claimed that the weapon had been passed to someone in his crew and eventually sold to an unknown individual. He described the guns as a matched set, one left-handed and one right-handed, but denied ever owning twin .40 caliber Smith & Wesson guns. When investigators reminded Johnson of his previous confession in July 2014, where he admitted to carrying 2 .40 caliber Smith & Wesson guns and being armed during his transactions with Scott, Johnson backtracked. He claimed he had owned many types of guns and was not certain if the bullet came from one of his weapons. For nearly 18 years, the case remained unsolved with no arrests. In 2023, Detective Brian Martin and Detective Darren Strayer began interviewing witnesses again. Finally, in 2024, new evidence and witness testimonies emerged, leading to charges against Derek Johnson. Johnson's motive for the case appeared to be connected to the marijuana grow operation he found in Scott's basement. He confessed to detectives that he had shot Scott in the head and taken the marijuana plants. This breakthrough is a significant development for the Fort Wayne community. It brings closure to the Parrish family and finally delivers justice for the victim after nearly 18 years. Detective Brian Martin credits playing cards that FWPD placed in local jails that feature profiles of unsolved slaying cases, leading to a new interview in the case. Danny said that he had not slept well since that night in 2006. He and his wife set up a memorial bench for Scott at Lakeside Park in Fort Wayne. Derek Rodney Johnson's sentencing date must still be announced. What happened to Dylan Rounds, the 19-year-old farmer from Idaho? How did a young man known for his love of the outdoors suddenly vanish? Is he still alive or not? These questions have gripped the rural communities of East Idaho, where Dylan grew up amidst stunning landscapes in the farming community. Dylan Rounds' parents, Justin and Candace, divorced when Dylan was just 4 years old. This led to him and his younger brother and sister splitting their time between Idaho Falls, where their father lived, and Twin Falls, where their mother resided. Despite the separation, both locations provided Dylan with a profound connection to the outdoors, a central aspect of Idahoan life. From a young age, he developed a deep love for the wilderness, finding solace and excitement in the great outdoors. Whether hiking through dense forests, fishing in clear mountain streams, or simply exploring rugged terrain, Dylan's affinity for nature was evident. The young man, renowned for his adventurous spirit and love of the wilderness, was reported missing on May 28, 2022. He talked to his grandmother over the phone that morning, telling her he was putting the grain truck into shelter, and then he was not heard from again. Dylan, who had been living in an RV camper near the Nevada-Utah border in Lucin on his own farm property, suddenly vanished. This sparked a slaying investigation that would unravel a disturbing series of events. The investigation quickly uncovered troubling evidence. During the initial search for Dylan, deputies discovered a pair of his boots near his farm. One of the boots bore a blood stain, confirmed by DNA analysis to be Dylan's, with a man called James Brenner's DNA also found on the boots. This suggested possible tampering after Dylan's disappearance. Brenner was known to be a squatter residing on Dylan's property around the time of the young man's disappearance. According to Dylan's parents, Brenner was among the last people Dylan had contacted before he went missing. Subsequent scrutiny of Dylan's phone records revealed activity on the day he vanished at a remote property in Lucin. The last signal from Dylan's phone was traced to the Lucin Pond. A thorough search of the area led to the discovery of Dylan's phone. Digital forensic analysis of Dylan's phone unearthed a time-lapse video taken around the time of his disappearance. The video showed Brenner cleaning a gun, his arms and shirt visibly stained with blood. Authorities analyzed the shirt and confirmed the presence of Dylan's DNA. The accumulating evidence strongly pointed to Brenner's involvement in Dylan Rounds' disappearance and probable demise. As investigators continued their work, Dylan's family and the community awaited justice, hoping for answers that would bring closure to this tragic case. Brenner faced serious charges in March 2023 of first-degree felony and abuse or desecration of a human body. Also, a third-degree felony based on compelling evidence gathered during the investigation. The prosecution built their case on several key pieces of evidence: the time-lapse video, the shirt Brenner wore in the video that revealed traces of Dylan's DNA, and the DNA on Dylan's boots that were discovered during the initial search efforts. Beyond the evidentiary discoveries, Brenner's troubling criminal history was highlighted during the investigation. He had a documented past of violence and had previously been convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm. As legal proceedings progressed, Dylan's family and the community held on to hope for justice and closure in the devastating case. The weight of the evidence and Brenner's background painted a grim picture, leaving authorities and the public alike eager for the resolution of this tragic story. The investigation into Dylan's disappearance and presumed demise remained ongoing, with authorities diligently working to recover his body. The search efforts have been intensive, spanning the areas where Dylan was last seen and focusing on locations linked to the evidence gathered in the case against Brenner. The detectives could not find Dylan, and the search went cold. In 2024, the Box Elder County Attorney's Office made a plea deal with Brenner. In order to lower his charges, he was required to disclose the burial site of Dylan's body. Finally, almost 2 years later, on April 9, 2024, Dylan's skeletal remains were recovered in the remote western Box Elder County area of Lucin. He lost his life due to a gunshot wound to the head. Dylan's family has established a dedicated website and Facebook page. These platforms' initial purpose was to provide updates on the investigation's progress, share information about ongoing search efforts, and offer a means for the community to contribute tips or information that could aid in the search for Dylan. Now that he was found, they used the platforms to help with other efforts to search for missing people around the country. Dylan's story is a reminder of the impact of violence and the community's determination to seek the truth. On July 1, 2024, more than 24 family members of Dylan's attended the sentencing. Dylan's father spoke to Brenner and said, "Dylan helped you out so many times, and this is how you repay him. I just hope for the rest of your life you think about this." Dylan had paid Brenner to work on his farm and even shared meals with him at times. Brenner did not address the court and has not disclosed additional information about what transpired, leading him to take the life of Dylan. When asked if he would stand and face the family of Dylan and other friends and supporters gathered in the courtroom, he declined. James Brenner was sentenced to serve up to 30 years in prison. The judge is going to advise the parole board to keep him in prison as long as possible because of his lack of empathy. Dylan's mom said, "It does not necessarily put it to rest, but this court part of it and the anxiety of the consistently waiting, what is going to happen, when is it going to happen, what if it does not happen, that part we can finally lay to rest." Another family member had the following to say, "While we had hoped for a different outcome, we have known since the start Dylan was no longer alive. This recent development means the investigation has gone full circle, and now we can finally bring Dylan home and close this chapter."